Okay, so everyone talks about money and managers, but what if data analysis is the key to bringing back our beautiful game? In today's video, I'm using real-world football data, the kind clubs actually rely on, to build a team and try to win the Premier League in Football Manager. And if the numbers are right, this won't just work, it will actually allow us to win the Premier League using only data-driven stats. And how we have done that on Football Manager is released every single player from Newcastle and given ourselves a £500 million transfer budget to try and build the perfect data side from the Premier League. Now for this one, we ought to be using players just from the Premier League, as I'm looking to make this a little bit of a mini series. We head to the Bundesliga, Ligue 1, La Liga and the Serie A. So if you want to see them ones, make sure you're smashing the like button and let me know which one you want me to do next. And you're probably also wondering how I'm getting all this data analysis stats. Well, I'm looking into StatHead at FBref, which is a website which I've all of a sudden became in love with. It is really good at tracking data and stats of players from all over the world. I mean, we're just locking this to the Premier League, but you can check out stats from like all domestic leagues with advanced data. And we'll probably do that as a separate video as well, because I found players like Tolawase Arakadare at KRC Genk, who again, I've all of a sudden become in love with, because he's a fantastic striker, which is going completely under the radar. And we're looking to try and find players like that in the Premier League that might be slightly outperforming with the credit people are giving them for. Now we have made a very simple 4-2-3-1 on Football Manager that we'll be using as our tactic for this simulation. And we are of course using Newcastle because we will also be able to test ourselves in the Champions League as well as the Premier League. And of course the goal is in this first season, as we are only doing this for a season, as that's what the data is really good for, to see if we can somehow win the Premier League with a team full of only data signings. And we're going to start off with the striker position that we have whittled down to 10 of the best attackers in the Premier League. Now we are sorting this by goals minus XG. So looking at someone like Brian Mbuemo, 19 goals, 12 XG. He is outperforming XG by 7. That isn't always an amazing thing, and we'll potentially talk about that in just a minute. To find these 10 players, we have used these statistical filters: goals minus XG at -1, shots on target 33%, goals and assists this season above 15, and non-penalty goals above 12, and progressive passes received 100. This is a set of stats which gives us a mobile striker with great movement and a fantastic finishing ability. And you can see that straight away with the 10 players we have been given here: Brian Mbuemo, Matheus Cunha, Mohamed Salah, Jürgen Strand Larsen, Alexander Isak, Luis Diaz, Jean-Philippe Mateta, Johan Visser, Ollie Watkins and Erling Haaland. Now our striker position is an advanced forward on attacks. They need to be able to put the ball in the back of the net at a high rate, but also link up play with a pass it shorter, bringing in the attack midfielder and 2 wingers, but of course shooting more often. So while we have whittled this down to the 10 players on this list, we need to whittle this down a little bit further, and we're going to look at players with also good passing stats. For example, someone like Erling Haaland, as fantastic he is in front of goal in our system, he is in the first percentile for passes attempted. There is quite literally 98% other players which are better than him, and his pass completion rate is only 68.3. So we're looking for a striker like Erling Haaland that can pass the ball better. I'm also going to rule out Brian Mbuemo, Matheus Cunha, Mohamed Salah, Luis Diaz, and obviously Erling Haaland, as they don't really fit the position that we are after. Yes, people, before we go any further, I want to speak to you legends about football.fun. This week is all about the Europa League final, and you can see I'm investing heavily into Patrick Dorgu and, of course, Amad Diallo, putting my full 2,000 coins that were earned from last weekend. I'll be doing a full video on breaking down exactly how FDF works. There is still a few places in the Kempi army, 8 places left to be exact. We are seeing 8th out of 11, and I need you guys to help me get back to the top of this leaderboard. As I said, there'll be a full video breaking down how FDF works over the next couple of days, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and get active on football.fun. Jürgen Strand Larsen is very good in terms of his goal scoring stats comparatively to where he is in the league, but again, passes wise isn't great. Alexander Isak is the first striker that ticks pretty much every single box, but remember we have got just that £500 million transfer budget, and this guy would set us back a lot. Mateta is better than the likes of Erling Haaland and Larsson, but not quite as good as Isaac in terms of his goal scoring stats. 14 goals, 2 assists in 35 games, top 80% in non-penalty goals. It's not too bad. Johan Vissa is a player that I really like and I think is very, very underrated. I think he's not being spoken about quite as much as Mpuomo, as he is 28 years of age, but a 5'11", quick, nippy striker with 87 percentile in terms of non-penalty goals at 0.62 and really good at receiving the ball and passing. Ollie Watkins is actually fairly good as well. His goals don't stand out quite as much as some others, but his assist numbers are really strong. But due to the fact that we look deeper into the stats, maybe it's actually the players around him which are doing better than his, say, chance creation. So that whittles us down to Johan Vissa and Alexander Isak. Now, I am also going to be using championship players for this as well, and I've used the exact same search filters to bring up these 5 players. And to be honest, there's only 2 on this list which are actually strikers. Joel Pirro from Leeds, whose link-up stats are really good, as are his finishing. And Joshua Sargent from Norwich, who again, stats are fairly decent. 20 goal contributions in 32 games in the Championship is really good. Very high pass completion percentage as well. And his actual, finishing stats are pretty decent. Now, the first man is Alex Isak. We moved him to Barcelona because obviously we had to release every single player. And he's got a value of between 45 and 65 million. So it would certainly be quite an expensive one for this challenge. Johan Vissa could potentially be our starting striker at 30 million. But I think the first player we have to sign in this is Josh Sargent with a value of just 10 million pounds. And how well he's performed in real life, I think this is definitely our backup striker. And I'm also going to bring back Alexander Isak as well, as he is a Newcastle player and he's been smashing it in real life. And I think he is the #1 striker in the Premier League right now and on this list. So that's the striker positions done. Let's move on to our 2 wingers who are aiming to just get the ball into the box and be very strong inside forwards with great chance creation. Now, to find the 13 players we have got on this list, we are looking at descending goals plus assists, and then we are going into per 90 stats, because strikers, we need them to know that we can play lots of games and score lots of goals. Most of the stats everywhere else, I'm looking at per 90, because if a winger has only played 10 games, but his stats are really good per 90, I'm very interested. As we're looking at key passes of 1.8 per 90, 4 take-ons attempted per 90, and goals and assists above 0.3 per 90 minutes. Rather than expected goals and expected assists, I'm looking for actual output. And the 13 player list this has come up with is Bukayo Saka, Matheus Cunha, Luis Diaz, Barjan Gruda, Amad Diallo, Jeremy Doku, Abiri Chiese, Amadou Traore, Savio, Kulusevski, Sancho, Neto, and Reece Nelson. And for the Championship, we've done the exact same. We've got Manuel Solomon, Ben Doak, Milan Manuef, and Michael Johnston. And the first player that sticks out on this list to me is Barjan Gruda. He's someone we don't hear a lot about in real life. He's played 19 games with only 540 minutes, a goal, and 3 assists. So, like I said, if we were sorting this by not per 90 stats, but actual stats, this guy wouldn't come up. But the minutes he's playing, he's doing really well. He's in the 99th percentile for assists in the game and the top 20% in touches in the attacking area. Great in terms of the tackle and great in terms of the blocks. So he's got great high press stats, which is something we'll certainly be using on FM. So we're going to use that knowledge to our advantage and straight away bring in Barjan Gruda for £10 million. Now, looking into the goals and assists per 90 minutes, of course, these players had to have over 0.3. It is incredibly impressive for Saka and Cunha to do nearly a goal and assist every game, which is mental. That's goal or assist, not goal and assist. Apologies. Saka, 20 starts, 24 games. Saka with 24 games and 16 goal contributions, and Cunha with 31 and 21 goal contributions. Now, I think it would be silly to not bring in one of these 2 players. I don't think it's going to be Saka though, because his value is over 200 million. While Matheus Cunha is someone which we will be picking up for £52 million to play on that inside forward role on the left-hand side. I think as this video comes out, it's probably been confirmed that he's signed for Manchester United, which is amazing news for me as a United fan. But for now, he's joining the mighty Toon on that left-hand side. I think it was incredibly important to get an absolute bagsman and real assist creator in the team, and spending money on a big striker like Isak and a creative genius like Cunha is so important. Now we need to find our starting right winger, as Gruda is the rotational option. Pedro Neto is someone which is quite interesting. Very good at carrying the ball, very good at passes received, but his finishing stats and actually his assists and goals really isn't that impressive. A 3.2 XG, scoring 4 is decent. Expected assisted goals is something which I think is a very, very important stat. Sometimes it's not the player's fault that the player's not scoring the goal. He's creating the chances. That is very important. But even then, looking at like his shot creating actions and bits like that, he doesn't really excite me. I mean, actually, Reece Nelson is someone that I shut off quite quickly, but his stats are absolutely outrageous. Not scoring a lot of goals at all, but passes completed, pass completion, progressive passes, progressive carries, interceptions, blocks, absolutely outrageous. The other player that I'm very interested in is, of course, Amad Diallo. 7 goals, 6 assists in 25 games is very good, and his stats are genuinely very, very impressive. When comparing him to Reece Nelson, these stats are pretty different, mainly in the attacking statistics. Amad Diallo seems to just create a few more chances, and his goal scoring record is certainly a little bit better. So I just think based on the amount of stats and sort of minutes played we're looking at here, and the fact his age is 3 years younger, I think we're going to go with Amad instead of Reece Nelson. And then for the left wing, I personally don't think we look any further than Manor Solomon. He has been unreal for Leeds this season. I got absolutely called out in the Leeds rebuild recently because I didn't re-sign him, and I actually feel really bad. He's got 22 goal contributions this season in 39 games, is almost definitely going to re-sign for Leeds. And as an apology to the Leeds fans from that video, based on his stats here, they are unbelievable. I'm going to bring him in to rotate with Cunha on the left-hand side. Another absolute bonus, he's only costing us 22 million. And I think I'm very, very happy with how this has started. A spearhead striker, 2 fantastic inside forwards, and rotational-wise, I think we've got some good youth and some really good players which are massively outperforming their stats. I do also just want to preface this video that I am in no way a good data analyst. I have never done data analysis. I've never done any courses. I am quite new to it. I just really enjoy it. I love doing Moneyball rebuilds on FM, and I love looking into data and stats. So if you've got any tips for me, if I'm using wrong terminology or if I'm missing things, please let me know in a nice way in the comments down below, and give me some hints and some tips. If you are a fantastic data analyst yourself, or you have a bit more information than me, I would genuinely just really appreciate it. And of course, I'd also appreciate you smashing that like button. Also, around 70% of you are not subscribed, so hit that subscribe button. Moving on into the central attacking midfielders, we are looking at descending in carries, so a player that brings the ball forward a lot, and key passes to a match, shot creating actions for a match, and goals and assists at 0.5, slightly higher than our 2 inside forwards, as we're looking for a player which definitely has a stronger output. We have 12 players on this list. Gruda gets back onto the list, as does Adama Traore. Dwight McNeil is a winger, so not interested. Eze is certainly someone I'm interested in. Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, and James Maddison. And for the championship, we have Finazaz and Gustavo Hamer. Finazaz from Middlesbrough, who I think is potentially ready for the step up to the Premier League with fantastic progressive passes and really good stats as an attacker. While Gustavo Hamer, I would personally more profile as a defensive midfielder than an attack midfielder, so not really someone I'm looking at for this position. But Finazaz is someone that I'm definitely going to put in the mental logbook. In terms of the cams, I think it's personally impossible to look any further than Bruno Fernandes, but of course his value on FM is £170 million. I think this guy is up there, one of the best players in the world. I am not capping. I think he is outrageous. And without him, United will be relegated this season. But sadly, due to the financial constraints of this little challenge, we can't bring him in. James Maddison is really good. His value on FM is 72 million. Now, he has been a bit of a shining light for Spurs this season with 16 goal contributions in 31 games in just 1,809 minutes. So nearly every single game, he has got a goal contribution. In fact, fact, we are sitting at 0.8, which is really, really strong. Other players at that sort of level, we have Dwight McNeil, who has been going under the radar at Everton, but a really strong left winger. Not really doing any other stats very well at all, but managing to get 10 goal contributions in 20 games is really, really good. Cole Palmer has had a little bit of a up and down season for Chelsea this year. Last few months, he has definitely fallen off a little bit, but still grabbing 15 goals and 8 assists, which is pretty outrageous. 17.2 XG though, obviously takes a lot of penalties, which boosts that up a lot, and he is technically underperforming. But the player that I don't think we can look past is Ebere Eze. With 7 goals and 8 assists in 32 games this season, he has been electric for Palace. Of course, just won an FA Cup, is in the 95th percentile in shots on total, and brilliant in his take-ons as well. Looking into him on FM, we can pick him up for £40 million, and I just think it is the logical player to bring in at Cam. And I don't think there's any cams on this list which give value for money as a rotation for him. So why not bring in Finazad from Middlesbrough? He's only going to cost us £3 million, which means we've got £318 million left for our 2 DMs, our 4 defenders, and our goalkeeper, plus the backups, which means we have 14 players to still buy with 318 million, which is about £20-25 million a player, which is not too bad. Moving on to our defensive midfielders, we are using the bog standard defensive midfielders on support. One with Taguahada being slightly more defensive due to that, and one that we want to have a very good ball carrying ability. Now we are actually going to be doing 2 searches for this one, as we need one which includes their carries per 90 and one which doesn't. Now regardless if they are having the carries per 90 or not at over 35, we need them to have over 1 interception per game, over 1 tackle per 1 per game, and passes completion, short passing at over 92%, which brings up this list of 5 players. Well, for the Championship, we actually have a few more options. So I think our go-to here is to get 1 player from this list with good carrying ability, and 1 player from this list who's potentially going to be the backup. And well, to be honest, based on this list, there is only really 1 option. Mainu's worth between 67 and 99 million. Bissouma between 37 and 46. We probably will get him because Caicedo's worth between 80 and 120, and Gravenberch is worth between 85 and 102 million. So welcome Yves Bissouma for 42 million. Which, by the way, I really don't mind that much. I actually think Bissouma's had a little bit of a disappointing season for Spurs this year. Overall, of course, they've had quite a disappointing season. But based on previous seasons, I actually think he's a really good player. You can see defensively just how good he is with tackles, interceptions and clearances, being all in the top 20%. Clearances in the top 12, tackles in the top 11. Also his passes attempted and completion mean he's also pretty decent on the ball. In terms of looking at the Championship players, we're going to do this fairly quickly as they're probably going to be a rotation option or very, very heavy backup. Ethan Ampadu is a great option, really good in the carries per 90, lacking a little bit in tackles won and interceptions, but pass completion and completion short passing is really good. The other one is Ayo Tanaka, very, very similar, but definitely better when tackles won and interceptions, and only just short on the carries per 90. Other one I'm looking at is potentially Kenny McLean, but I'm not a massive fan, to be honest. Imran Louza is fairly decent as well at Watford, and overall his stats are actually really, really good and could be a good bargain option. He would cost between 8.4 and 10 million, but I think the best option on that list probably is Ayo Tanaka, and he would be even cheaper at between 6.6 and 8. And despite taking off the carries, the Championship list doesn't change a whole bunch. Well, the Premier League does bring in a lot of other players, and there's one which really impresses me. It's Andre, very, very similar in the fact that he's not going to go and score you a bunch of goals. Remember, this guy is more of a defensive midfielder, and he ranks the 96th percentile in tackles, 85th in blocks, and a fantastic pass completion percentage. Now, he's going to cost us £46 million, but to be honest, he is one of the only options, and I think he's a really good one as well. Which means we really need to try and find a cheap beast in this Championship list. Now, Aidan Morris is an option. Let's have a little look into his stats. Really good pass completion and passes attempted. Great defensively as well, and can get forward. And would cost somewhere in the region of £7.5 million, and I quite like the look of him. Now, next up, we are looking into the wing-back positions, and we are looking at matches played over 15, but our wing-backs need to be very good going forward. So over 2.2 progressive carries and 2.2 in shot-creating actions, meaning our wing-backs can drive forward and create chances for the rest of their team. For the left back position, we have Anthony Robertson, Ayet Nouri, Milos Kerkez, Andy Robertson, and Ian Matson. One of the Championship, we're looking at Junior Firpo. Yasser Larouci, I believe, is a left wing back, as I think is Alfie Doherty. This is really testing my Championship ball knowledge. And Josh Timon is as well. I think we have only got £215 million left out of our transfer budget. So again, it's going to have to be some very smart signings. Now, Anthony Robertson, I think, is absolutely fantastic and has a value of between about £32 million, which is right at the top of our limit. And Ayet Nouri, I think, is probably that just the next step above, but his value is about 55, so an absolute write-off here. And the same goes for Ian Matson with a value of about 60 million. And the same for Milos Kerkez with also 60 million. So for left back, definitely, I think we are going to be going to the Championship. And for me, there is one definite option in Junior Firpo. He has been unreal for Leeds this season. And looking into his stats, he has been quite literally fantastic. Amazing going forward, amazing defensively, great on the ball as well. 14 goal contributions in 32 games. An absolute standout, and I think he's getting a brand new deal there as well. So we'll certainly be seeing him in the Prem next season. And he costs us just £6 million, which is a bargain. And the other two left backs we could potentially look at in the Championship, which I think is where we're going to have to go, to be honest, for this, is Yasser Larouci at Watford, who has got fantastic attacking stats, decent clearances, good interceptions, and decent in terms of his carries and take-ons as well, which is very important for us. And Josh Timon, who is playing at Swansea now, 45 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, is very good. Again, really good there. Good interceptions, not doing great on blocks, clearances. That could be system-based. Carries-wise, 95th percentile. And both of them on FM are really cheap. Larouci, around £1 million. And Josh Timon ranking at about £3 million. And I think, to be honest, I'm going to go with Josh Timon, purely based on his progressive ability is really, really strong. So here he is joining Newcastle. So because we've spent just £10 million on our two left backs, it does give us that little bit more scope in other positions. And at right back, our options are Malo Gusto, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Connor Bradley, and Pedro Porro. Now, Pedro Porro is just way too expensive. Wan-Bissaka probably also too expensive at about 45 million. Connor Bradley would be a really interesting one, but also about 45 million, so not really worth it. And finally, it's Malo Gusto, also about 70 million pounds. So it looks like we're going to the Championship for right backs as well. Well, we are looking at either Milan Van Evcik from Coventry, Kane Wilson from Derby, Jayden Bogle from Leeds United, Alfie Doherty from Luton, and that is it. So these are our 4 choices. Now, straight away, Milan Van Evcik, I'm a big fan of. Watched him a little bit in real life this season. Quick, young, good at going forward. His stats are pretty decent all the way around. They're not breaking it in anything, but really well-rounded. Kane Wilson's actually very impressed me from clicking him there. His progressive carries and take-ons are incredible. So someone that I'm definitely going to look at. Jayden Bogle, again, doing really well. Very similar to Junior Firpo in that lead system. They're just getting down the line, whipping balls in and doing really well. And Alfie Doherty doing maybe a little bit better on the defensive side of things. I actually think he's a left back rather than a right back. So we'll just sack him off. So probably going to go out there and get 2 of Jayden Bogle, Kane Wilson, and Milan Van Evcik. Kane Wilson is an absolute bargain at around 500k. I think it's probably just too good to turn down. Obviously, his stats in FM are nowhere near as good as they are in real life, but that's kind of the point in what we are doing here. Milan Van Evcik would cost us around £20 million. Amazing speed and acceleration, and I know he's very good in FM. And Jayden Bogle at 23 also looks very well-rounded and just £9 million. So again, I think just to kind of put them in the system and try and spend more money on centre-backs and goalkeepers, and we'll bring in Jayden Bogle and Kane Wilson as our 2 players. So they certainly look like some weak links in the team, but I can assure you, in this system, in this role, they're going to be really, really key and really, really good. And you'll be able to see that by the end of the season when hopefully we've won the league. But now we move on into the centre-back positions. We have got 7 Premier League centre-backs and 7 Championship centre-backs. Now we are looking into 10 matches played, 2.5 tackles and interceptions per 90, and a short pass completion of over 95%. We're also looking at the amount of goals they concede. Certainly is something that we are interested in. Vestergaard and Bednarek, for some reason, look fantastic. They're at Southampton and Leicester. They have both conceded loads of goals this season, and I'm not convinced by their stats at all. If we look further into it, Vestergaard doing really poor defensively. He just does well in terms of his pass completion. And Bednarek actually doing really well defensively, maybe he's just getting held back by the team he's at. So someone we can certainly look into. Lenny Yoro comes up in these stats as well. We're not going to get on FM purely because his value was so high. I wanted to just touch on him. I think Yoro's fantastic. I do think he's a little bit weak, and that will develop over years. I think in the next 2 to 3 seasons, if he stays at Manchester United, I can see him genuinely becoming one of the best centre-backs in the world because he has got all the right characteristics. He's just young, so he needs to bulk up a little bit, and I think Lenny Yoro will be brilliant. Of course, Virgil van Dijk comes up on this list. You're absolutely silly if you don't think he's one of the best centre-backs in Premier League history. He's going to be just way too much on FM, though, and the exact same goes for Saliba. Not one of the best in Premier League history. You never know, one day potentially. His stats actually aren't that outrageous defensively, but Arsenal hold such high possession, I wouldn't expect them to be. His ball playing and ball carrying ability is really strong, but again, on FM has a value of like 200 million. So probably not going to get any of them. The other player on this list, which really interests me, is Adam Webster. He is really good at interceptions, blocks, and then also getting the ball and moving it forward. Progressive passes of over 88 percentile, over 5 a game is really good, and around 71 passes a game with a percentage of 87. Of course, his short percentage is much better at 96.1%. So he does also try them cross-field balls, but not always coming off. As long as he can get the ball, move it onto our DMs, I'd be pretty happy to bring him in. And he's not exactly cheap here on FM either, ranking between 37 and 54 million pounds. Well, Bednarek is just 22 to 32. So I think Bednarek is an absolute certainty to bring in. And but actually, I think I'm going to try and bring in a big centre-back as well, because we've got 170 million pounds left. We need to bring in 2 backup centre-backs, 1 starter and 2 goalkeepers. Now, Euro would cost us about 70 million, Van Dijk about 100 million, and Saliba about 120. I think I might bring in Virgil van Dijk, to be honest, or Lenny Euro. I might leave the starting centre-back position to the very end, go and get our 2 backups and 2 goalkeepers, and at the end of it, have at least 70 million. If we have more, I'll go and get Van Dijk. So we'll leave that position and park it there. Let's go to the Championship and look at our backups. We've got Ethan Ampadu, who obviously is fantastic. We know how good his stats are from earlier looking on. Defensively, not outrageous, but he does play a lot of games in DM as well. So we can see he's very good on the ball and would do a good job. And Anjel Ahmedovic from Sheffield United, just 25 years of age. He's doing quite well for Sheffield United, another team which obviously at the top of the league, so very similar to looking at Saliba. You can't take too much into account here, but he's doing well with his carries, pass completion and goal scoring apparently, which is good to see. I think this is a pretty much certain option, especially for just around 15 million. And for the rest of these centre-backs, I am struggling because Kenneth Powell is a left-back, Kenny McLean is a DM, Christiane is a left-back, and Caleb Wiley is a left-back. So we haven't got that many options. So what I've done is I've just literally taken 1% off of the pass complete percentage from 93 down to 92. And have a look at this list because I know there's some players in this list which are definitely centre-backs. The 3 options we have are Ben Cabango from Swansea, Ronnie Edwards from Southampton but on loan at QPR, and Callum Doyle at Norwich City. Now Callum Doyle is obviously at Man City on loan at Norwich City and worth 40 million, so probably a no-go. And Ronnie Edwards also has a very big value as a really good youngster. So I'm going to bring in Ben Cabango. He looks really good defensively and in real life and here on FM. And it's only going to cost us 2 million, and it's going to be our 4th choice centre-back anyway. So finally, we are looking at goalkeepers, and this one we are looking at PSXG minus GA. Now, I believe that is post-shot XG minus goals allowed. It's basically overperforming the amount of goals they should concede compared to what they do concede, I think. I believe that is correct. That's just what it's sorted by. Matches played 20, save percentage 70, and pass completion 70. Will our goalkeepers be good on the ball and good at shot stopping? Kepa Arrizabalaga is the top player, which is interesting. Nick Pope in second. Of course, plays a lot of short percentage passes. Robert Sanchez from Chelsea, Alisson, David Raya, and Mark Flecken. We aren't looking for them to be outrageous on the ball, just fairly okay at doing the short things. We're not looking for them to be like mad on the crossfield passes. James Trafford does really well for that at Burnley. Michael Cooper, I believe, at Plymouth. I could be wrong there. Alex Palmer at West Brom, Anthony Passon at Sunderland, Ivan Pandal at Hull, and Meslier at Leeds also comes up. That's hilarious that he's come up because you can see it's a 0.4, so not really doing very well at performing at all. Now, James Trafford, I actually think is ready for the Premier League and I think could very well join Newcastle next season, but his value on FM is just too much and we really do need that star centre-back. Michael Cooper is actually apparently at Sheffield United. That must have been a mid-season move and he does really well. Really good at crosses stopped, so claiming the ball is very high. Clean sheet percentage is great. Save percentage is great. Goals against is great. And his PSG minus GA is also very good. And it's got a really, really small value as well. So as our backup goalkeeper will be perfect for 1.5 mil. So now for our starting goalkeeper, I think there is 3 options. Mark Flecken, who has been decent at Brentford this season. Really good touches on the ball. So likes to build out a lot at Brentford, of course. And really good with his crosses stopped as well. David Raya, of course, really good on the ball. Great shot stopping and good claiming the ball. And Kepa, who I didn't think would actually be on this list, but seems to be doing really well. Save percentage of 75.2, which is really good. 29 games, only 36 goals allowed, and 39.5 was the XG that was meant to be there. So doing really well at outperforming that. Save percentage top 15%, and likes to come out and do a bit of a madness, but doesn't come out and claim the ball very well. So probably good looking at either David Raya or Mark Flecken. Now, money-wise, if we want Van Dijk, we have about £48 million to spend with. And David Raya costs 150 million. So probably not going to get him. Whereas Mark Flecken, who will cost us just £30 million. So in comes Mark Flecken in goal and big Virgil van Dijk as our star centre-back. And that means our team is complete and looking like so. A backline of Flecken in goal, Bogle, Bednarek, Van Dijk and Firpo in defence. But I think from there, our team is outrageous. Andre Bissouma, Amad Diallo, Ebery Eze, Mateus Cunha and Alexander Isak up front. On the bench is a list of Premier League and Championship players which are performing really well. Mike Cooper, Kane Wilson, Ben Cabango, Anil Akmanovic and Josh Tiemann. You can certainly see we've run out of money in the end. Ayo Tanaka and Aidan Morris with Berjan Gruda, Finn Azaz, Manuel Solomon and Josh Sargent. Some of the best Championship players on the bench, the best Premier League players in the starting lineup. Get your comments in right now where you think this team is going to place in the Premier League. I think we'll be getting top 4, and I think there's a good chance we could win the league as well. And it's been really fun to sit down and do this. Like I said, it's one of my passions, linked in with FM as well. As I said, please let me know some hints and tips in the comments down below. Let me know how I did if you are a data analyst. But let's get into this simulation and see if a team built purely off data can win the Premier League. Now, to kick things off, we need to talk about a few players which were incredible this season. And number 1 was Manuel Solomon. Again, justice for Leeds fans. I didn't sign him in the rebuild. If I did, we probably would have won the Premier League in the first season. He scored 20 goals and got 9 assists in 37 games and 21 off the bench this season, averaging a 7.03 average rating. Now, this guy is always transfer listed at the start of FM saves, so go out there and pick him up because he is unbelievable in the match engine and performing as he does in real life with Leeds. To absolutely nobody's surprise, Alexander Isak grabbed 33 goals and got 3 assists. He started just 25 games in the Premier League, but grabbed 14 goals in them 25 and scored a 7.05 average rating. And our other standout attacker and key assist man was Amad Diallo. 15 goals, but 21 assists, showing we scouted the right profile for that inside forward on support role, beating his man, cutting it back into Isak and scoring a whole bunch of goals. He was absolutely unbelievable. And on the defensive side of things, we also did the right thing in not spending too much money on our wing backs because Jayden Bogle, 13 assists this season, a 7.03 and cost us just 9 million. And while Junior Firpo was very good with 4 goals, 6 assists in 43 games, the hidden star in this team is Josh Tiemann. He grabbed 9 assists and 2 goals in just 10 starts, a 7.11 average rating. Again, showing that if you have the right stats and you have the right ability, you can plug into a system and work very well, especially on Football Manager. And again, just showing didn't need to spend too much money on the wing backs. It was much better to go for that big centre back in Van Dijk, who, by the way, scored 17 goals and got 6 assists from centre back, playing 62 games, and was 100% worth investing the £100 million into. Now on to how the team actually performed on the pitch and in the league, and my God, it was absolutely incredible, showing exactly exactly what we spoke about with Amad Diallo there, getting on the line, getting in the cutback, and an easy goal, a tap-in for Abere Eze. We are going to play against Bournemouth in this game away from home. Manuel Solomon starting, whipping it into Isaac to make it 2-0 in 18 minutes. Isaac then from the spot makes it 3, and to be honest, this was kind of the story of the whole season. We were dominating physically, and we were just scoring a ridiculous amount of goals thanks to the amazing scouting we used to get to this point. And that helped us get to a Carabao Cup final where we were facing up against Chelsea, a team which actually performed very, very well this season across every single campaign. And we'll get into that in a little bit. An early goal from Mateus Cunha gets us 1-0 up. Eze then finds Cunha. A strike from distance. Looked to be deflected off James, but who knows? It goes down as Cunha's goal and it is a 2-0 lead. And then the counter-attack where Chelsea eventually catch us napping. Raheem Sterling finds Enzo Fernandez for 2-1. Could we stay strong? Well, in fact, we can go and grab another as Chelsea send everyone forward. We get on the ball. Barjan Gruda, a great slide rule pass through to Isaac, who finishes home for 3-1, and we lift our first trophy of the season with a team only built off real life data. And I say first final because we also have a second, also against Chelsea, where they completely bottled it in the 99th minute, giving the ball to Gruda, who slips it through to Isaac for another victory against Chelsea in a final. So we've already completed a domestic double. But guess what? There's a third final, a Champions League final against Real Madrid. Could we really build a team purely based off data in real life, plug it into FM, and become champions of Europe? Well, Amad Diallo gets us off to a fantastic start with an early lead, but Vinicius Jr., well, he silences the crowd and makes it 1-1. In the 70th minute, Madrid do bounce back. Mbappe in the box, beats his man, finds Luka Modric, who eventually finishes at home to give Real Madrid the 2-1 lead. But just 30 seconds later, the ball drops to Isbasuma, switches it out to Jayden Bogle, beats his man with a lovely touch, finds Barjan Gruda, who scores for 2-2. But in the 105th minute, Real Madrid grab the winning goal as Kylian Mbappe breaks Newcastle hearts and wins the Champions League for Real Madrid. Now, that's a pretty impressive season if you ask me. Winning the FA Cup, winning the Carabao Cup, final of the Champions League. We could have, sadly, we didn't win that game. That would have been incredible to do a treble like that, but sadly not the case. But also awesome to see in that game the likes of Barjan Gruda, who we spent just £10 million on. We said was a bit of a hidden gem, someone that potentially next season with more game time could look incredible in the Premier League, has performed even in a Champions League final. But now on to our Premier League form. Could we replicate our cup form and end up winning the Premier League? Well, we were unbeaten in August, the team gelling fantastically well with over 11 goals scored in the first 4 games before a 7-3 victory of Wolves. The team was absolutely cooking until we went into October and faced Arsenal and Manchester City. We lost both games against the big sides, but if we could beat all the smaller teams, we would have a pretty good chance. So beating smaller teams like Liverpool 4-1 was on the cards, and of course they're losing to the biggest team, Manchester United, 5-1. Really not ideal, I've got to be honest. We then drew to Fulham, lost to Everton, beat Burnley, lost to West Ham, beat Bournemouth, and then went unbeaten in January. The first half form was fairly decent. Could we keep that up in the second half? And to be honest, yes, we could. Of course, December was rough, but January was great, and in February we won every single game, even beating Arsenal in the second leg against them. But sadly, we lose to Manchester City in March, Spurs in April, as well as Liverpool in April. And despite winning every other game, Manchester City were just too strong, finishing on 85 points and winning the league title. So no, we could not win the Premier League. But looking at this competition screen, I think it's safe to say we gave a pretty good job. FA Cup winners, Carabao Cup winners, Champions League finalists, and Premier League second place. In terms of the Premier League, we scored the most goals, scoring 87, and conceded just 49. And again, we're looking into this team, given how much money we spent early on the attack and then filled in the gaps in defence and then bringing in the big Virgil to sit in the middle of the defence. I think we built this team very, very well. Mark Flecken, a 7.12. Jayden Bogle, 7.03. Firpo, 7.14. Van Dijk, 7.18. Jan Bednarek, 7.07. Andre and Basuma, both a 7.07. Amad, 7.09. Eze, 7.02. Mateus Cunha, the first player in the sixes with a 6.94 and Isaac with a 7.04. On the bench, Manor Solomon a 7.03. We're actually sticking with the starting lineup. Every single player performed over a 7 average rating. I think it's safe to say this has been a fantastic challenge and we've done really well as well. If you want to see me implement the same things into the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga and Ligue 1, let me know in the comments down below what one you want me to do next. Make sure you smack that like button and I'll speak to you next time.